Speaker. Paul Goldsmith.
Speaker, I find it a bit galling to have a lecture on being outward-looking from a member from the Green Party, which is the well-renowned protectionist anti-trade party in the House that doesn't want to engage in globalisation in the rest of the world. They turn their mind inwards, and yet he gives us a lecture on being outward-looking. Mr. Speaker, I stand for a genuinely open, outward-looking, dynamic economy, able to foot it in an internationally competitive world, which can generate the sorts of living standards to which we all aspire, and can provide the opportunities so that New Zealanders of all shapes and sizes and ages can look to seek to gain the best for themselves and for their families, and great opportunities in a world, and don't feel like they have to make a choice, a lifestyle choice or a second-hand choice to live in New Zealand, but that they can really achieve their potential. And it's only through a strong economy that people can have access to the best health care. I've never met anybody in my travels around Epsom or anywhere in New Zealand who isn't interested in having access to the best cancer treatment that money can buy, and the latest medicines that money can buy. And all these things cost money and can only be attained through a strong economy. A strong economy allows you to invest in quality education and pay teachers properly. It enables you to pay for pensions for elderly people and to take care of the vulnerable. And that's why I'm firmly of the view that this government is taking this country in the right direction. And after 6 years, we're heading in the right direction, but there's still a long, long way to go. And it's my hope in the next 3 months New Zealanders will make the right decision to enable us to continue in this progress. New Zealanders also want a government that they can trust, a government that keeps its promises, and a government that's working together with all New Zealanders to build that stronger economy. And under the strong and stable leadership, Mr. Speaker, of John Key, who has the unanimous support of a united caucus behind him, and Mr. Speaker, it has certainly been an eye-opener to me to come into a political party with 59 members. The natural state of affairs in any political environment would be infighting, competition, trouble and strife. That's the natural state of affairs in politics, and yet I'm part of a caucus of 59 who are united in one vision and behind a strong leader in John Key. And that has led to a period where we've had an extended time of predictable, consistent and stable government. And that's so essential for growing the economy. Before I came to Parliament, I spent most of my time writing business history. And the main thing that I learnt from looking at successful New Zealand companies was just how difficult it is. One of the last books I wrote was on Bill Gallagher and his company who export electric fences all around the world. And while they might have been, and I caught up with him down at the field days a couple of weeks ago, and while it might well have been they managed to produce the best electric fences in the world one year, every year somebody from somewhere else, from Taiwan or Sweden or somebody else, was coming up with something better, and if they stayed still they would be left behind. And it was a constant, relentless business of staying one step ahead of the competition, and they'd be hit from the side from one thing, the exchange rate would go up, or you have earthquakes in Canterbury, which meant insurance costs in New Zealand went up. The consumers in Germany who bought the products don't care a hoot about insurance costs in New Zealand. They just want their things at the same price. And so companies are relentlessly forced to innovate and encouraged to innovate in order to find better ways of doing things and maintaining their competitiveness. Now, So maintaining a business, whether it's out in the country or one of the countless services businesses in Epsom and Parnell who are exporting services all around the world, is that that to employ people, businesses have to take risks, and they only take risks, or they're more inclined to take risks, if they have confidence about what the government is doing, if they have confidence that there is a basic stability in the environment in New Zealand, and that there's an element of predictability, and from confidence that leads to investment, and investment leads to jobs and wealth, and that is what grows the economy, Mr. Speaker. And the latest data from Statistics New Zealand shows economic growth is indeed picking up. providing further evidence that our economic program is making the country more productive and competitive. The main measure that we use, GDP, has increased by 3.8% in the year to March. That's a tremendous performance in the international context, comparing with only 3.5% in Australia, 2% in the United States, and 0.9% in the European area. And it also shows, Statistics New Zealand data, that the economy grew by 1% in the 3 months to the 31st of March. A very strong, reasonably broad-based approach with positive contribution from construction, mining, agriculture, retail trade and accommodation. And so these are the latest in a run of encouraging economic indicators. And the challenge for us as a country is to extend this period of growth that we've seen over the last couple of years. And that indeed is fundamentally the object of the business growth agenda, which is a work in progress. And so the 6 areas that we've been working on over the last 6 years and continue to have a very substantial work program if we have the opportunity over the next 3 years to continue on government, dealing with all the areas which enable New Zealand businesses to be more competitive internationally. So it's opening access to export markets, and I reiterate the concerns of Stephen Joyce that we're now in a parliament where free trade is very much a questionable thing. We think Labour is still with us, but they equivocate more and more. The Greens are implacably opposed. New Zealand First is implacably opposed. Then we look at capital markets, where we've made so much progress with the mixed ownership model and has strengthened capital markets in New Zealand. There's a lot more work to be done there. Innovation, this latest budget led to a huge amount more investment in encouraging New Zealand firms to be more innovative and providing them with the research capability through the Callaghan Institute and many programs that offers. Skills. And we hear constantly around the area of inequality, notwithstanding the inaccuracy of the so many claims. And I do note that the OECD just today announced that New Zealand was one of only 6 developed countries in which both income inequality and disposable income inequality was flat or slightly better between 2007 and 2011, which really shows just what nonsense we've been hearing about the so-called growth of inequality. We have been very successful on that score. But what I would say is the fundamental driver of inequality is the gap in skills that is emerging. 30 or 40 years ago in New Zealand, if you had only your muscles to offer to the market, you still could do quite well in many industries. That's not the case today, and it certainly won't be the case in 20 years' time. And so fundamentally, the most important thing we can do to reduce inequality is to make sure that everybody gets access to a good education, and that is what has been very much the focus of Hiki Parata's work. We look also around the infrastructure. The thing that concerns Aucklanders, I think, most is we live in a city which is growing, which is dynamic, and which is doing well, and people want to come here and they don't want to leave, and that's great, and the city is growing, but when you've got a situation like that, you do have to invest in infrastructure so that the city keeps moving. And we are making a significant contribution around the public transport area, but you cannot ignore roads, and we don't. And we certainly in my area, the continuation or the completion of the Waterview Tunnel will make a massive difference to congestion around the streets of Epsom and throughout the Auckland Isthmus. And that's the sort of investment we have to make the city grow. I just want to contrast, I suppose, when you took the overall picture and see the progress that the country is making under the leadership of John Key and this national government, you have to ask yourself the question, why on earth then, given all this progress we're making, would the country want to lurch off in a strange direction under the leadership of David Cunliffe and overturn monetary policy, introduce a whole lot of new taxes? I wouldn't never have believed all the problems of the world could be solved by the introduction of a capital gains tax, but that seems to be David Parker's view in the world. And then we hear Grant Robinson talking about new higher rates of taxation. Have they not learnt from France's most recent example, Hollande's high 75% tax rate, that high taxes redistribute people, not income and wealth? People just move to avoid taxes. And so we're going to overturn the electricity market, become a world leader in carbon taxes. Why on earth would we take such a risk when we're making good progress? And why would we contrast stable government under John Key with unstable government, with Honi Harawira and .com and all these Uncle Tom and Cobley with David Cunliffe? And on that basis, Mr Speaker, I commend this bill to the House. Thank you.
Te ura Flavel.
Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker. Kia ora tātou katoa. Mr Speaker,